What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. And as you can tell by this thumbnail, there were some really incredible vintage foreign variants, PBP and Spanish Poch, as well as Lili Ledys. And I need to give a shout out to the blacked out Ewoks. I didn't know about these because they were only available for bidding over in eBay UK. The seller, Muffin Man, I guess started a new account, and he wasn't doing international shipping for any of these items. And I think you can make the argument that this is probably one of the greatest eBay auctions of foreign variants, if not ever, certainly in a very long time. As you can tell by this thumbnail, there were some very incredible Lili Ledys that had the certificate of authenticity from Horatio. I can't pronounce his last name, but he is the foremost expert on Lili Ledys. And a number of these did include kind of his COA that he does for loose figures, ungraded. And I believe he was actually an authenticator for AFA for a little while there. So I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. But anyway, there's some beautiful Spanish and Mexican figures that did sell. So shout out to BOE for that. Also, I need to say thank you to Jimmy Hawk. He recently increased his Patreon support. So thank you so much, Jimmy. I've been meaning to tell you that, but I've been out of town. And just really appreciate the channel support from all my Patreons. I've got a lot to go through, so I didn't include everything that was in this auction, but I included most of them. And there were some good deals, and there were some that went for a final sales price that were a lot higher. I did bid on one, but lost. I finished second. But I wanted to at least say that I was part of the auction because there were some kind of historic figures at auction. The first one is a Spanish Poch Tuscan Raider, graded UKG 80%. Not sure how this one got the 80% given the paint defects on the face. You can see that the silver paint was basically gone from the cheeks as well as the eyes and some of the horns. In my opinion, this one is overgraded. It got an 80%, but there's no way that this is an 80%. In my opinion, this is at best a 75. It was unique, though, because it was the staggered G trademark, and also the hands had a lighter paint color than the bandolier. The bandolier was a dark brown. The hands were a light brown. So it was a unique figure and certainly very desirable, but I would say that it was probably more like a 75 grade, in my opinion. And the price reflected that. It sold for 112 pounds, which is 140 US dollars. There was another one that was a UKG 80% that had very impeccable paint and probably more worthy of the 80% grade that sold for almost 3 times this number, if not 4 times this number. So that was probably 3 or 4 months ago. I remember because I bid on that one and I lost. But this one I stayed away from because I just didn't think it quite fit the grade. I just didn't think it was worthy of an 80% grade. And that's going to be the case for a number of these, but I think in general, I mean, whatever. These are all foreign variants that are very tough to find. Next up was a Spanish Poch made in Hong Kong COO Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is exactly the same figure or very close to it to the Lili Ledys, which I'm going to show you a little bit later on. It's a little bit different paint scheme on the gray. The gray is a little bit lighter on the Spanish Poch versus the darker gray for the Lili Ledys that I'll show you later. But this one got a 75%. I think this is very worthy of a 75. The feet are a different color. I don't know if that's discoloration. Most likely it's discoloration, which does happen with the Spanish figures. The plastic degrades, and I think that's what happened with the feet there. You can see it's a different color. That one sold for 84 pounds, which is 105 US dollars. Now, if this was an 85%, I bet you could triple that number pretty easily, if not quadruple it. Next up was an 80% Spanish Poch FX7 #1 date stamp. This is not a super rare one, but it's a little tougher to find than some of the other Spanish figures. That one I thought sold for a great price, 73 pounds. Again, probably a little overgraded just given the white. The arm on that had quite a bit of paint discoloration, a little bit of yellowing to the silver on the actual figure. So again, probably a little overgraded in my opinion. Next up was the Black Boots Spanish Poch Hoth Rebel Commander. This is a very tough variant to find in high grade. I've got an 85% UKG for this one, but I would argue that my example is probably overgraded because of some paint overspray on mine. It's probably more like an 80%. But this one is probably every bit of an 85% in my opinion. The boots were perfectly sprayed. They don't have the overspray like mine does. And it sold for 226 pounds. I would argue that if the seller had made these available for U.S. bidders, that a lot of these prices would have been 30 to 50% higher. So, for whatever reason, he said he started a new account and it did not allow for international shipping yet. And it's probably to his loss, because I know that I would have bid on a lot more of these. I did have one person in the UK bid on one of them for me, but I think if he had opened it up to U.S. collectors, we in the U.S., we cannot get Spanish Poch and PBP very easily. They're just very rarely AFA graded or CAS graded. So I think he missed out on an opportunity there to make it available for international buyers. But it's his item, so he can do what he wants with them. But I think that this price is way low, way low. It's probably worth more. It sold for $284 US, probably more like a $400 to $450 figure if it had been opened up to U.S. buyers. A Spanish Poch Death Squad Commander. I think, again, this one's overgraded. The helmet had quite a bit of chipping on it. This is really like a 75 grade. You can see some yellow to the torso piece there. Probably a 75 at best, in my opinion. And the price reflected that. I mean, it sold for 110 pounds, which is 138 US dollars. I mean, to me, that's below what these sell for loose. And I think it's a great buy. I think it's a very fair buy, but I do think that one's overgraded as well. Next up is a Spanish Poch Han Solo Bespin. Again, probably overgraded. It had some hair chipping there, as well as some kind of chipping on the hands there. UKG seemed to grade these pretty loose, and it's okay. I mean, I'm not criticizing UKG. I just think, in my personal opinion, if these had been graded by AFA or maybe even CAS, they probably would have gotten 75s or 70s, but they're very rare figures, and I would have no problem having these in my collection by any means. And it sold for 75 pounds. That's a great price, which is 95 US dollars. That's a really great price, very fair for that one. Next up is that Chocolate Legs Han Solo Hoth. This is a Spanish Poch figure, so an early Spanish figure with the Hong Kong COO. That one sold for 143 pounds. It was a UKG 80%. Again, I think this one was a good buy, in my opinion. It was, again, probably a little overgraded. I have this one in a UKG 80%, and it does not have any of these paint defects on the legs. So I've got a little bit of paint defects to the white gloves on mine, but not nearly as bad as this. So if this one's an 80%, then mine's probably more like an 85%. But again, I'm nitpicking the grades because I don't know if it really even matters what the grades are when it comes to these early Spanish figures. They're just hard to find at all, much less complete and already graded like this. But 143 pounds, what a bargain. I hope that some of my friends were able to pick up some of these Spanish Pochs, because that is a great price, 179 US dollars. I mean, I paid close to $400 for mine, with a lot of that being the global shipping program. So again, these were only available on eBay UK. Next up was a Spanish Poch Imperial Commander, graded UKG 80%. Again, probably overgraded, just given the wear to the tip of his ball cap there. A lot of wear to the emblem as well as the belt buckle. But that one sold for 64 pounds. I mean, you can't buy it for that on Facebook, loose, ungraded. So again, very, very good deals on some of these. This is the one that I bid on. This is the Spanish Poch Hoth Princess Leia. I had Boss Bounty bid on this one for me, and I finished second. I think I bid 311 pounds. It sold for 321 pounds. So I came in second place, and that's okay. It was a half-hearted bid. I think it's worth every bit of 321 pounds. It's 403 US dollars, and it looks like an 85% to me. Really good paint applications. There is some discoloration to the yellow portions of the legs there, but that's very, very common for these Spanish figures, and very tough to find this one with the eyebrows intact, mostly intact. A little bit of wear to the lips on Princess Leia there, but this is a gorgeous figure and very, very hard to find in high grade. It was graded UKG 85%. I was okay with that grade on this one. So anyway, I had Tim bid on this one for me, and I finished in second place. If I was serious about it, I probably would have bid more like 400 pounds, but it was kind of a half-hearted bid. Next up was some Spanish PBP figures. So these are the later Spanish figures after the Poch factory merged with the PBP factory around 1982 or 1983. This is the very common pale face AT-AT Commander. This one sold for 125 pounds. It was a UKG 85%. That's right in line with market. It's much easier to find the PBP figures in high grade than the Spanish Poch figures, I'll tell you that much. Next up was a Spanish Poch Scar COO made in, so the Hong Kong was scarred out for the Hoth Han Solo. And again, this was graded UKG 80% with quite a bit of wear to the legs there. So maybe overgraded just a little bit, but 66 pounds. 66 pounds is an absolute bargain on that one. Next up was the Spanish PBP Hammerhead. This is a really common one, so I'm really surprised it sold this high. It sold for 182 pounds, which is 228 US dollars. Very easy to find this figure because it also appeared on US release Made in Spain card backs. So, you know, this one is one of the easier ones to find. Any of the Cantina aliens came on Made in Spain US release card backs. So, a little surprised that that one sold for 182 pounds, but that's 228 US dollars. Next up is the Spanish PBP Lando Bespin, graded UKG 80%. I thought this was a good buy, 102 pounds, which is 128 US dollars. Brand new K-Style, Scar COO. And, you know, they usually go for between 100 and 150 US dollars, sometimes higher if they're graded by AFA. But I think this is a very worthy purchase at 102 pounds. Next up was a Spanish PBP Purple Torso Han Solo Hoth. So there's a couple of different variations for the PBP Han Solo Hoth. This one's got the pale face as well as the purple kind of tunic, and this one's a little bit tougher to find than the one we just covered that has the kind of the pink face. But this pale face Han Solo PBP, 110 pounds, that is a bargain. You know, again, it's probably a little overgraded just given the wear to the feet there, as you can see. But I would take that all day long at that price. 110 pounds is a bargain of a price. That's 138 US dollars for a very tough to find purple coat, pale face Han Solo Hoth. Next up, it's really hard to find the Spanish PBP Stormtrooper in a high grade, and this one got an 85% from UKG, and in my opinion, it was worthy of the score. And a side note, I like how the seller had these stickers on the front of each of the cases. So you had like logos, the POC label or the PBP logo, and also he did it for the Lili Ledys that I'm going to cover here in a second. But I thought that was a beautiful figure, and I do like how he incorporated that sticker. I don't know if UKG did that or if he added that after the fact, but it looks really great on the case there. But that is a very high grade PBP Stormtrooper, and it sold for 282 pounds, which is 350 US dollars. I would have paid that all day long. That's a very fair price given how white that figure is. I mean, that's a really white looking Stormtrooper and very much worthy of the UKG 85% grade in my opinion. Next up is a very tough to find, I mean not super tough, but it's always pretty expensive, and that's the Red Armor PBP Forlom. So I've got this one in my collection, graded CAS 85+, and I paid a lot more for this one. I paid more than this for mine ungraded. So this was a bargain of a deal. It was graded UKG 80%. And the most common defect is on the back of the neck there. And this one is no exception. The neck is almost always torn on the robe, as you can see there. It's got the tear. Mine does not have the tear, and that's why it got the 85+. So usually, though, they have that tear, and that's probably why it got the 80% grade. But that's a beautiful figure. This one also had quite a bit of wear to the eyes, as you can see there. The silver paint had kind of faded off there a little bit. Mine has a little bit, just a very touch. But anyway, I don't care. I mean, that's a gorgeous figure and very tough to find. And that price of 263 pounds was a bargain, 333 US dollars. They sell for that, usually sell for more than that ungraded on Facebook on like Echo Base Vintage Variants. So that's a good buy right there. Next up is we're going to start digging into the Lili Ledys. This one is a Lili Ledy Death Squad Commander, graded 80%. I also have this one graded 80% by CAS. That one sold for 137 pounds, which is 172 US dollars. That's about right. I think I paid about 125 for mine ungraded. You add in about 50 bucks to grade it or so, and that's almost exactly what I paid for mine after factoring in grading costs with CAS. So very worthy of the 80%. To me, that's actually a really nice one. And you had a little bit of wear to the belt buckle, which is very common. But overall, that was a really clean example. I'm surprised it didn't get an 85 on that one. But, you know, it's really like an 80+ because it's got a paint score of 85%. The figure got an 80. So it's really like an 80 plus grade, and that's a gorgeous figure for 172 US dollars. Next up is the Lili Ledys Obi-Wan, and as you can see, relative to the Poch Obi-Wan Kenobi, this one's got much darker gray paint applications to his hair and his beard. So otherwise, the figure's exactly the same. They use kind of a heavy mascara look to the eyes, and they have like wider feet, wider heels. But you know, it's the exact same figure mold, exact same saber. It's just a darker paint application for the gray face paint. So anyway, that one was graded UKG 85%. And that one sold for 255 pounds, which is 320 US dollars. That's a bargain. I would have paid that as well. And you can see on that one, this one has the Lili Ledys sticker on this one. So that's a really cool looking figure. Next up is the Rancor Keeper Lili Ledys. This one was graded UKG 80%. That one sold for 130 pounds, which is 163 US dollars. That's about right. I was expecting about 150 US dollars. So it went a little bit higher. And the Rancor Keeper is not one that you see too much, but usually ungraded, they can sell for about 100 to 150 bucks. So that's a pretty good price, I think, for one that's already graded. Next up, this is a very tough one to find, and I'm surprised it went this low. This is the removable limbs Mexican Lili Ledys C-3PO. Usually ungraded, you're talking $500 plus. This one sold for 375 pounds, which is 471 US dollars. That's a really good price, assuming that this one is correct and it has the correct net. The net is the hard thing to find on the removable limbs C-3PO for the Lili Ledys. It's always very, very tough to find. But that one was graded UKG 85% as well. So that's a bargain of a price for a very high grade example, assuming that that net is the correct one. Next up is the Lili Ledys Leia Bespin. I bid on one that was an AFA 80 plus, and I lost, and it sold for over 600 US dollars. This one was graded UKG 80% and sold for half that price, or a little bit more than that. 282 pounds, which is 354 US dollars. Again, assuming that pistol is correct, that's a bargain, because oftentimes that pistol can sell for that much money by itself. So to get one, you know, 100% complete, UKG 80%, that's a really good price on a Lili Ledys Leia Bespin. Next up was a UKG 85% Luke Skywalker Bespin Lili Ledys, and this one had the brand new case style. That one sold for 387 pounds. It looks to be the correct blaster for sure, because it's that wide handle Lili Ledys Bespin blaster, and it always has a wider handle than the standard counterpart. And you know, I can tell you right now that that is absolutely the Lili Ledys pistol, as well as the Luke. I don't know about the saber. I'd have to see it up close, but that to me is probably correct. And to get that one for $486, that is a bargain of a price. Next up, we're going to dig into the heavy hitters. And all of these had the certificate, the statement kind of authenticity from Horatio Tortajada. And I hope I'm not mispronouncing his name too much, but for those of you who don't know who Horatio is, he runs Ozzy's, I think it's called Ozzy's Lili Ledys, and on Facebook, and he is the foremost expert on Mexican Lili Ledys as well as Mexican bootlegs. So if it comes with this statement, it actually is more important than the grading, the grading case. I can tell you without any doubt that any item that comes with this statement of archival or certificate of authenticity from Horatio is what it says it is. And this one is the Lili Ledys Leia Bouche with the unpainted overstock helmet. How this one got an 80%, I have no idea. If you look at her hair there, that hair has got a lot of rub to it. So, but that helmet is the highlight. It's an unpainted overstock Leia Bouche helmet, and you know, it sold for a lot more money than I expected. I have this one CAS 85 plus, and it does not have any hair rub on my example. But this one is the darker brown torso, just like my darker brown paint. And it's a tough one to find, but I would argue that the hair rub on this one precludes this one from getting an 80%. This one should have been at most a 75%. But it's a gorgeous figure. I'm not trying to detract from it. I'm just saying it's a little bit overgraded. But I've got this exact same item, and I think I was really shocked by this price. 888 pounds took this one home, which is over 1,100 US dollars. So that's a big, big price, but it did include this statement from Horatio, so you know it's legit. Next up is an overstock C-3PO. I have this one in my collection. So this one did not receive the VAC metallization, and it was also a non-sonic welded. So Very, very tough to find this one. And I paid about this amount. I paid $550 for mine. And then I had it graded by CAS. Mine graded in 85. This one was graded 80%. So it's big head, unsealed overstock, Lili Ledys factory unpainted. So this is exactly what I have. Mine has the cool case where everything's kind of splayed out. But this was a really nice item, and I'm surprised it went this low because I think that usually on the Facebook Ledy groups, these sell for more than that ungraded. So 480 pounds, took this one home, which is $603 US. That's a bargain of a price and worth every penny in my mind. Next up was another one. This one had kind of like a gold overstock spray paint to it. So I don't know if this was done by, it's got the Lili Ledys custom painted. And this was probably done on the black market after the Lili Ledys factory went out of business. A lot of these parts ended up on the black market, and they were quickly spray painted with gold. And you do see these fairly, they're not super common, but you do see these somewhat regularly. And this one got the 75. I think that's appropriately graded, just given the paint wear to it, and given that the paint was probably done aftermarket on the black market in the 1980s. But again, if it has this certificate from Horatio, the paint was done in the 1980s. It was not done recently, and I would be very comfortable owning this one in my collection as well. But the price reflected the discount, right? I would much rather have the unpainted version versus one that had the kind of gold custom spray paint that was done on the black market. But it's still a great piece of collecting history from when the Lili Ledys factory went out of business. So this one sold for 350 pounds, which is $440 US, versus this one that sold for 480 pounds, which is $603 US. This is the better buy, but they're both very desirable figures. But the most desirable one is this one. This is the early Returno Darth Vader, graded UKG 85%. Let me tell you, this was a great buy. It sold for 920 pounds, which is $1,157 US. But this thin saber, thin cape, early Returno version of the Darth Vader Lili Ledys, as it's beautifully labeled by UKG, and it also includes a COA serial number on it. Let me tell you, these usually go ungraded for $1,500 US plus on Facebook. So to get this one for 920 pounds, which is $1,157 US, it's worth every single penny of this amount, because it's a very, very tough to find Darth Vader. And these appeared on early Returno card backs that the Lili Ledys factory put out, and it was known to have this very thin tip saber and very, very thin cape. And it's one of the holy grails for the Lili Ledys line of figures. I'm putting my L's together there. So anyway, 920 pounds. I know it sounds like a lot of money, but let me tell you, this is an extremely rare Darth Vader and worth every penny. I wish I could have bought it myself, but congratulations whoever got that, because you got an absolute gem for a great price. But anyway, that's all I included. There were other items as part of this auction lot that this seller had, but I had to talk about it. And again, thank you to Blacked Out Ewoks for showing me these, because they would not have shown up on my US version of eBay, because they were only available for bidding on eBay UK. And I would argue that he probably left a lot of money on the table, several thousands of dollars on the table, by not having US buyers be able to be a part of this pretty epic auction. But it's his items. He can do what he wants. But I would have waited until his eBay account, his new eBay account, allowed for international shipping. Hopefully he's got some more items like this coming down the pipe, because I definitely would have loved to have bid on several of these. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.